Welcome back, Arachnoholics. I know I've been gone a minute, folks, but I'm back again with another rehouse video. Today, we're going to be doing a rehouse of a juvenile, suspect female, Avicularia metallica, which is the metallic pink toe. So, this is a really fun species to keep for one, and one of my personal favorites. I love all Avics, but the Metallica holds a special place in my heart. It's one of those pink toe species that's just, it's almost like a staple in the hobby, right? It's like a hobby classic. One thing interesting about these guys is they do get significantly larger than the common pink toe or the Ghanaian pink toe. Actually, the regular Avics, they typically cap out at about 4 inches, maybe 4.5 inches for a female, for a good-sized female. Males stay a little bit smaller. Whereas the metallic pink toes, females can actually reach leg spans of 6 or more inches. In fact, it's not uncommon to have a female that exceeds 6.5 inches in leg span. And even the males get a pretty decent size, so that's quite large for a pink toe species. Temperament-wise, this is probably not only one of the most docile species of Avic, but one of the most docile tarantulas, period. Of course, they can be a little nervous, like most pink toes, and while they are significantly slower than the majority of other arboreal species, especially the old world arboreals, they can still move in surprising quick bursts of speed that can definitely catch you off guard. And they can and absolutely will jump and are quite good at it, should they feel inclined to do so. So that's definitely something you want to be weary of should you choose to handle this species. Of course, we've got our usual setup. I got paintbrush, got forceps. The paintbrush I will use to coax her out of her old enclosure and into her new one, which, as you can see, is significantly larger. We also have our handy dandy catch cup, and that's pretty much it. So the basic setup, this is a New World species, meaning they come from the Americas. These come from South America, specifically Brazil, Guyana, certain other places. I believe they are found also in Ecuador and Peru, if I'm not mistaken, but I might be about that. But I know that these are pretty widespread in South America. And one unique thing about pink toes is, well, two unique things actually. One is they do have urticating hairs, but unlike the majority of New World species, which can flick or brush off their urticating hairs, with these they have to actually make contact with your skin. So the tarantula, when threatened, will bob its abdomen up and down, and if it makes contact with a human hand or any part of the body, those hairs will actually break off and embed themselves inside of the skin. And while the effects of Avicularia urticating hairs are pretty mild for the most part, they can still cause quite a bit of itching and discomfort, especially if you're allergic to that. And, there's really only one way to find that out for sure. So you really do want to try to avoid that, but it does happen periodically. Now, another really fascinating thing about pink toes is when they're threatened, oftentimes they use what is called a poop cannon, in which they will aim their abdomen directly at an attacker and will literally spray it with their feces. Which I know is kind of gross, but it usually does the job and allows the tarantula a few seconds to escape. So like I mentioned, this is an arboreal, meaning that they are tree-dwelling, and they do like to climb. So height is going to be more important than floor space. Now, This guy here, this girl, I should say, is about 2.5, almost approaching 3 inches. So she's definitely outgrown her 12-ounce deli cup that I have her in. And we're moving her into a 1-gallon mainstays enclosure. This is plastic, and what I did was I drilled several rows of holes all around the sides of the enclosure, because one thing about pink-toed tarantulas is cross ventilation is very important for them, because in the wild they make their nests, their webs, way up in the treetops most of the time. This can be a couple feet or even hundreds of feet off the forest floor, and they will spin their webs between leaves, vines, tree branches, tree holes, etc. And the thing is that there is constant airflow. We think of them as being tropical, humidity-loving tarantulas, which they are. They do come from a humid environment. However, unlike the tarantulas that live on the forest floor, our terrestrial and fossorial species, our arboreals live up top, where there's an almost constant airflow, and the air up there is a lot less dense and a lot drier than the air that is on or just above the forest floor, which is where all of the humidity and moisture is going to be. So, too much moisture, too much humidity, and saturation can actually suffocate the spider to death, and it ends up dying, which is a mistake that a lot of rookie keepers, myself included, have made in the past. Thankfully, I've wisened up a bit, done my research, and I haven't had too many issues with keeping any of the Avicularia species since then. But that's definitely important. Good cross ventilation. You don't really have to worry about holes on top. You really just want to put a couple rows on the sides of the enclosure if you can. Then, of course, we have water dish. I've suspended it up high so that she can access it, as pink toes very, very rarely come down to the ground. They are one of those arboreal species that are strict arboreals pretty much from birth to death. We have our cork bark for her to climb on, as well as to anchor her web into. I only gave her about maybe an inch or so of substrate. They don't really need much at all. I mostly just do it for aesthetic purposes, as well as to, create a little bit more moisture and humidity within the enclosure. Of course, like I said earlier, we don't want too much of that, but this will help retain, hopefully, just the right amount for us. And without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get started here. I feel bad because I'm going to have to destroy some of her webbing, although she kind of did that after she molted last on her own. I know, girly, but it's okay. I guarantee you within a week or so, she'll be re-webbing this entire enclosure. And there's a lot more space. One thing I love about these mainstays enclosures is that, while it is more ideal to get a front opening enclosure for an arboreal species, especially a pink toe, as they like to create their two webs in the top portion of their enclosure usually. One great thing about these enclosures is they have this little lip right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. And a lot of times the tarantula will spin its web beneath that lip or right up against it. And it sort of acts as a little barrier, and a lot of times it'll discourage the spider from webbing up top. That way we don't have to worry about destroying her home, essentially, every time we open her enclosure to feed her. So the way I'm going to do this is probably, I'm just going to coax her up and out of the enclosure, just like that. It's a paintbrush. Now we want to be a little cautious because, like I said, these guys, even though they're slow when compared to a lot of other arboreals, such as your Poecilotherias or your Psalmopius tarantulas, they are capable of quick bursts of speed. Come on. Now I'm hoping with a little luck she'll just climb up the side of the enclosure and into the hole, right into the entrance. Normally I would not do this with a lot of other arboreals, but I'm not too concerned about her trying to make a run for it. Even if she does, I've got my catch cupper right here, and with their speed being on the slower side, I could probably catch up fairly easily. So we're just very gently coaxing her back legs, and we're allowing her to explore. We're not poking or prodding here. We're going to be as gentle as we possibly can. And hopefully, she'll just wander right in on her own, which it looks like that's what she's going to do. Oh, okay, maybe not. Alright, come on, little Miss Curious. In you go. There we go. Alright. I love when things go easy. Yeah, as you can tell, she's still got a little bit of the red coloration on her abdomen that the immature Avics have. As she gets older, though, this will definitely fade away. I'm actually going to take some of the branches here, not only for extra anchor points for her, but also I'm going to keep some of her old webbing in her new enclosure. And that may encourage her to web that much faster and to settle in all the quicker, which is good. That's definitely something that we want. Alright guys, there we go. I put the flash on so that you guys could admire those pretty colors. I love the snowy white hairs that the Metallica has on its body. It's one way that you can really distinguish them from the common pink toe, in addition to their larger size. But even an immature individual like this, those snowy white hairs are a dead giveaway. Also, I know you can't really see her carapace too well there, and she's also in need of a molt, but when they're freshly molted, this species has a bright metallic blue sheen on the carapace that the regular pink toe does not have, hence why it's called the metallic pink toe. Also, the very tips of the toes are actually white on this species, whereas on the Guyane pink toe, as well as many other species, they are not. They are just a solid reddish pink. But very beautiful species. Excellent, excellent beginner species for those who are looking to get into arboreals. They're just the right amount of speed, and they're a little more active than a lot of your terrestrial or fossorial species. But they're still relatively docile. They can and will tolerate some handling as long as it's done safely and isn't done too excessively. They're not particularly defensive, although, like I said, they can be skittish and a little high-strung at times, but nothing that most keepers can't handle. So there you go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right here. Hope you all enjoy that quick little rehouse.